Hello, and welcome to show number 6 of Global Perspectives with Dr. Michael Leitman, where we discuss what's happening in the world today. Hello, Dr. Leitman. Dr. Leitman, can you hear me?
Hello, everyone.
Today's topic is emotional resilience in the days of COVID-19. And we're going to talk about the situation that people are in now that they've been through lockdown. They've had perhaps some stressful situations in their families, in their households, or maybe they live alone, which could make it more stressful or less stressful. We're going to talk about it, how people handle it, and we'll see how Dr. Leitman perhaps can offer some good advice. I would also like to point out that what I did this week was I posted on my Facebook page an announcement that we're going to have this show now. And I asked people to send questions about this episode, about this topic of emotional resilience. And some people on Facebook did send some questions, and I hope we can fit them into the program and see if perhaps you can help them as well. Okay, so let's get going. Before we start, a couple of quotes. Dr. Kevin Gilliland, a clinical psychologist, said to People magazine, "There are a lot more people that need counsel and guidance. You're having feelings of isolation and loneliness like you've never had before. Everybody's psychological health has taken a hit." This is what Dr. Gilliland said. According to Time magazine, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, public health experts were concerned about the epidemic of loneliness in the U.S. The coronavirus has exacerbated that problem. Currently, 28% of Americans, or nearly 36 million people, live alone at home, with no family, no children, no spouses. They just live alone. On the other hand, some mental health advocates are optimistic that COVID-19 will finally give loneliness the mainstream recognition it deserves, possibly giving the way for a more socially connected future. So we're going to talk about how perhaps we can get into that socially connected future. My first question is this. It seems like while most people have dodged the illness itself, the COVID-19 itself, fewer people have dodged the mental and emotional impact of the quarantine. Where do you see society going in terms of social isolation and alienation in general, and especially after this coronavirus crisis?
The feeling of loneliness, it won't go away, it will only go and grow, and society will feel itself separated into many parts and pieces. People will be even less connected with one another, because at work there will be less places where they can connect, and in different places like it used to be, places like where you used to work out together, restaurants, pubs, theater, culture, there will be less people there too, and we will feel ourselves more isolated, further away from one another, both because the coronavirus or other problems that might come will force us to keep away from each other, and also because everyone's more immersed in their own health problems, their own social problems. And it's not that we'll see 38 million, like you previously said, about the people that live alone and feel alone, but many more. Besides, we'll also see that there will be divorce and problems in families. We're before a very hard period in history where humanity has to acknowledge and understand that it can't continue like it used to be, but it has to build a new life.
Episode, I want to focus more on the individual and less on systemic solutions. In light of what you just said about the exacerbating situation in terms of isolation and alienation and loneliness, what can or should people do in order to increase their emotional resilience? It sounds like it's going to be very tough. So how should people deal with this?
The problem is that today a person feels very lonely in the big world, and even though that our world is so multifaceted, various, big, but a person can't find his place, can't find himself. Even though that he has the means and he can allow himself many things, he still feels lonely. Because we were not taught, we're not raised, educated how to be connected with each other. Our education is not directed at seeing ourselves living in the global and integral world, where we're in a certain bubble of the still vegetative, animate, and human beings, that we're living together in a certain integral system on this planet. All of us, one against the other, on the personal level, between countries, between nations, cultures, and that comes the coronavirus and other problems that will come and will come for sure according to the way that we're behaving. Then, of course, we will not be able to feel more comfortable.
I want to read you something that a teacher from Missouri wrote about her situation. She describes her loneliness during the lockdown in the following words. Some days I smile and feel okay, and other days I curl up in a ball and wonder if this goes on too much longer, will I be able to take it mentally? Can I last sanely living alone for months, a year? What is it about human connection? And you said that we don't know how to create correct human connection. So what is it about human connection that makes it so important? Why do people have to continually communicate with other people? And if they can't communicate correctly, then they either stay alone and lose their minds or stay together and lose their minds again.
The matter is that we are social creatures. We can't live our life like animals that have a relationship with their spouse for a certain period of time in order to keep the generation going, and that's that. Even if it's a one-time thing, in order to have some kind of intercourse, coupling, mating, and that's that. We need a family. We need society, a society. We need a place where we are known, a place that we can somehow, in which we can somehow exist together. We're social creatures. It's something that does not exist in the still, the vegetative, and the animate, but we are in need of an emotional connection, not a chemical one or on the level of hormones, but an emotional connection, and this is something that we don't have. We want to replace the emotional connection with a business-like connection, with different other forms. Socially competitive and so on. And this brings suffering to all of us. Even the richest person doesn't have what he needs to receive from society. A person has to receive from society more than he has received from his mother, and we do not have that, because we're not building this kind of society that will know how to provide each and every one of us with warmth, a sense of confidence and security and support. And without that, a person feels himself floating in space, even furthermore in a hostile environment. He goes out, he meets different people. It's his enemies. And humanity is greatly suffering as a result. That's one thing. Another thing is that as a result of such relations between us, in our thoughts and our desires, we are generating the right place, a place for the different viruses to come to us, like COVID-19, that we're really endangering ourselves.
What can people do? If this is their lives, what can they do?
What can people
do? What to do? We have to go through self-scrutiny and see, what do we have as a result of the way that we're behaving? Maybe there can be some kind of attitude toward each other. Maybe we can have a different kind of attitude, different kinds of relationships. Maybe we can start building a society that is more similar to the entire universe, because if we look at nature as a whole, it's completely integral. All of its parts are interconnected. Also, society has to be that way, friendly, interconnected through mutual support. And we've built it in our ego, through our ego, and by our ego in a completely different way, the complete opposite. And now they have to go against our egoistic nature and understand that above this, we're building the right connection between everyone. Our good fortune depends on it.
A school teacher from Missouri. She was born as a regular person. She didn't decide to be especially selfish or not know how to handle herself in society. She was born into the society. Animals, as you said, know instinctively how to behave in their societies, and people don't. So what can someone like this school teacher, who doesn't know what to do with herself, whether to be alone, not to be alone, she's stuck in that situation. What can a person like that do?
Of course, every person is stuck, not knowing what to do about himself. People are confused, they're pressured by the environment, they have commitments and obligations. And people are miserable, but we have social systems that have to think about these things. There are people that nonetheless understand that we can't continue this way, that we're advancing toward a general destruction. And of course here, we have to calculate, we have to do the math, and see that we have to start a system of education that will teach us how to be more friendly, that will feel that nature is forcing us to go there. We're in one bubble, all of us. The still, the vegetative, the animate are supporting one another, supplementing one another, everything besides man. Man wants to control everything without taking anything into account. He doesn't care about how much harm he does to the general system. Unless you stop man, he'll destroy the planet altogether, and this is something that we already can see where we headed. So, in terms of nature as a whole, in terms of our inner nature, we have to see that we are a part of one integral system, completely interdependent, and we have to re-educate ourselves.
I understand that, but I wanted to specifically stay away in this program from the systemic solutions, from solutions that should be provided by the governments. I wanted to, if possible, ask what individuals, until governments get a grip and start moving in the right direction, until they do that, we still have to somehow survive until that day comes. So people who are already under stress, who are already feeling alone and isolated and don't know how to handle themselves, what can they do until there is a more societal solution? How do they go about their day-to-day lives?
אין לי פתרון.
I have no solution. I don't. You're talking about millions of people in the world.
אין לי אליהם שום פתרון.
I have no solution for them. Only that their governments, and this has to do with all governments, this has to do with everyone. What's interesting and what's good is that this blow will go over all of humanity, all around the world. The United States and China and Russia and Europe, the East, West, Arab countries, everyone, including everyone, will have the same problem. And because the whole world's interconnected, really interconnected, through trade and technology and everything, it'll pass very quickly from one to the other, and everyone will feel that they are in a general worldwide crisis. It's not that somewhere out there there's a crisis and others are happy because they can benefit off it. No, it is going to be a total general crisis that will affect the entire population of the world, all countries and all nations. And therefore, I don't think that there is something that you can do except explaining where are we headed, toward what, and what do we have to demand of the governments. We have to demand of the governments just one thing: for us to have the right education, all of us, that to be taught that we're all a part of one system, that we're one people all around the world, and only through good and mutual support can we escape all of these problems and blows coming our way that you can already see on the horizon. Just think, if in addition to the coronavirus there will come other plagues and blows that exist in nature, how we're completely unprepared for it.
And what's the way to prepare for it?
רק לעשות קשר יפה בינינו.
Have a good and nice connection between us. And only through it will we be able to chase away all these viruses. As completely, even though that it seems on a completely different level than an antivirus, this is what's going to work. Let's try. We have to do it one way or another. We have to be connected together into one system. I don't see on the human level that we can get out of this. Suppose we get out of the coronavirus crisis. What do we do next? We can't go back to the same system that we had and once again to start restarting our systems and trade and industry around the world. We don't have the power, the ability, the mind for it. No, they won't. They won't want it. People will not want to go back to those same places of leisure. They won't fill resorts, vacation resorts, the different cruise ships. No, not restaurants, not nothing. You'll see. These things will not work anymore. You won't be able to fill them. Humanity has undergone a very serious ideological blow. People don't want it. They don't even really want to go back to their place of work. They don't. To some extent, they already feel that it's redundant. What do I get as a result of working? What do I get as a result of making more money, getting... They understand that They have to make a living, but not that it gives them any kind of joy. There is something here that we have lost, some kind of drive to succeed, to control, to manage, to... This blow made out of us
but if
smarter people.
how to have good social relations, and if they're losing interest in their jobs, then they're losing interest in life in general. What will they have besides depression? Maybe. What are they going to do?
They'll sit in despair.
In depression.
Yep. Yeah, until they find the right way.
Okay. So
Of course.
how can they find the right way?
Out of suffering, or that they'll listen to the people that know the way.
Okay. I want to go to a different question. This one is from Facebook. And it's an interesting one, I think. Here in the USA, I seem to be observing a generation gap, quote unquote, in regard to the pre and post COVID-19 world. People under 40 are more apt to take it into stride that the world will never be the same. So the younger people deal with the changes more easily. Older people get violent and angry and totally reject the change. How can we calm down the angry emotions and build upon the accepting ones? How do we help those who are having a difficult time accepting the change accept it more easily?
Both these and those are in need of correction. Both need a new kind of education. How can we change ourselves in order to live in the world that has to be built now? We're living in a global and integral nature. We have to change ourselves. We have to reach this state, otherwise it will come upon us like all the previous states that one replaced the other, where we've shifted from one state to another in the different social states, that we went from one state to another through wars, through revolutions, truly hard states. And here we can do it in a good and nice way, through social conversation, education, educating society, and then we'll come to a new society. For this, you don't need world wars or revolutions. I really hope that people will understand this, that they'll hear, and that they'll agree. The younger people that want some kind of change, and the older that don't want change, both of them will understand that all in all, change has to be in the relations between people, that a person has to think about living his life integrally within nature, and that he has to be interconnected with everyone and with all of nature in such a way that he keeps everyone, that he cares for everyone. And this way we'll really discover that we're living in a good world, in a world of good. Otherwise, we're destroying the planet, and it can no longer sustain us. It will emit us.
If my only question about this is how we make the transition, because right now the coronavirus forced us into lockdown, so we had no choice. We were told to stay home, and everything became quiet. How do we make the transition more conscious? Because you can't stay in lockdown forever. So how do you, on one hand, build a life, on the other hand, you build a life that doesn't ruin the planet?
אנחנו צריכים להבין שלפי
We have to understand that
אנחנו צריכים להיות כמו
corporeally wise, we have to be like animals because our body is an animal, like any other animal. And therefore, we don't need to take from the planet more than what we need in order to simply exist, like any other animal. And only in the relations between us, in our relationships, we have to completely supplement each other in order to build a friendly system between all of us. So, in our imaginary engagements that there's no need for, besides that by them we are destroying our planet and we have no other planet, we have to take people from all the redundant work that they're doing, besides the work that serves our basic needs, and to start educating them, to bring everyone back to school, so to speak, for everyone to learn what kind of relationships should we have, what should the relation between us be in order for us to survive and also develop in a good and nice way on Earth and feel happy.
On the physiological level, we're like animals, as you said. But we're not only animals. We need emotional satisfaction. Animals are satisfied.
זה מה שאני אומר.
This is what I'm saying. Yes, this is what I'm saying. As animals, we have to provide each and every one with food, sex, family, everything. But internally wise, we have to provide each other with a good and nice society by which a person can develop an education, culture, and everything. And we don't need to deplete the planet for it. We fill ourselves with spiritual results.
What are those spiritual results?
שאנחנו לומדים
That we learn how to create different such phenomena for us to be whole, complete, happy, content with one another. What gives us or what satisfies us today? Destroying each other out of pride. But by this, we as if completely chop off the tree that we're sitting on. Look, the planet can't stand this anymore. Look what's going on with ecology.
If I have no pride in myself, it's very hard to live.
חברי, זה הכל תלוי בחינוך.
Dear, it all depends on education. If we teach the younger generation that you can completely be satisfied through culture and education, that we can shape everything, even if we're talking about science or research, for a person to get satisfaction out of it, that's no problem, but not to destroy nature. In order to fulfill their needs, in order to know. There's the matter of a person generating different forms of culture, education, music, dance, you name it. There's sports, there's also science. Please, you can be engaged in all of these, but don't destroy the planet. You have to reach a state where, all in all, you make things for people in order to give them their basic needs.
That's on the physical level. On the emotional level, if I want to be a musician or a scientist, okay, so I can be a musician.
All the more, please. All the more.
No, but it's still self-centered. It's still selfish.
נו, אז מה?
So what?
So I'm not contributing anything.
תבנה אורקסטרה פילהרמונית בכל...
Put together a philharmonic in every city.
They do now.
נו, אז מה הבעיה?
So what's the problem?
העיקר...
The main thing, not that there's something bad about it. This, I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about people's attitude toward each other and people's attitude toward nature. It's all bad. And therefore, by this attitude, on working on ourselves this way in our nature, we evoke these kinds of viruses like the corona, and there's much more on the way.
A self-centered musician and a society-centered musician, okay? A musician that was educated. How does his music change? How does his work? I don't know how to say it. How does he change as a musician? As a musician, how does he change?
I understand you. I understand what you're saying. It's felt in his music, whether he's writing it for himself, in order to be proud, in order to be greater than others, superior, or to the contrary, to make others happy and to give them his open heart. There is a difference. This is the matter of artistry. It also depends on education. There too? There too, of course. What is he developing his science for? Or he's developing it since he wants to acknowledge, understand reality. That's fine. He has an aspiration for it, a desire. He yearns for it. So please, fill your desire. By that, he's not doing anything bad. To the contrary, he starts understanding the general world, passes something of this to others. Others start understanding that they're really living in a very special world that we should protect. I don't see anything bad about this, besides that a person uses nature excessively, taking more than necessary from nature. And there's nothing bad about any other action of ours, even if they're egoistic. I'm not saying that we have to destroy our ego, all the more, only that it will be to the benefit of others, and for us to getting to know nature better.
Dr. Lightman, I feel like we're just warming up, or we have to wrap it up, regrettably. So, again, thank you very much for a global perspective and for all your wisdom. And we will try to get into it some more in the future. We'll see how we can maybe approach it from different angles. Please, friends, if you have questions, post them on my Facebook page. And we'll see you again in Global Perspectives. Thank you very much, Dr. Lightman.
כל טוב לכולם.
All the best to everyone.